There was a video released here, guys, called The Season of Discovery's Upcoming Phases Are Amazing, and I would like to give this a watch with y'all. I've been playing a lot of Season of Discovery myself so far. Level cap is currently 25. I personally think the next one, level 40, is gonna be sick. But let's check this video out, guys, and let's see what it is.
Season of Discovery ends Phase 4 with Karazhan Crypts, but what about what comes before that? And then there is the fun question of what comes after. Well, we all know that Season of Discovery has 4 phases, and that Phase 1 is Black Fathom Deeps at level 25, as well as the Ashen Vale PvP zone for its PvP event.
Haven't done
It's
much
our
of this.
introduction to level up raids and new PvP event zones, letting Blizzard test the waters, dipping their toes in to see just what the classic player base enjoys and just what it hates. And I think they've hit the nail on the head on how to properly release content and make changes to Season of Discovery because of the phase system. 4 to 12 weeks between each phase is a sweet spot for letting people enjoy content without getting bored. This system lets everyone share how they feel about a new experience, because every person you ask will have a wildly different answer to what is Classic Plus. So this is far more useful to Blizzard than 1,000 voices yelling different things. So Black Fathom Deeps and the Ashen Vale PvP event zone are testing grounds for player reactions. When you keep that information in mind, it makes the remaining phases and schedule make a lot more sense.
I like the approach a lot, and that's also what he's explaining. I love that they didn't give us a beta, no PTR, they just gave us a game that was changed, and they were like, okay, what do you guys think? People, they get feedback, okay, like this thing is broken, this thing is not fun, and they're changing it. Like, we're getting consistent feedback from the WoW developers, and like, even like on Twitter, like Josh Agrend, obviously, he constantly tweeting, okay guys, we're working on this, okay, we're fixing this, what do you guys think about this? It seems like a genuine... It's cool. It's genuinely cool having like feedback for a game, and the classic WoW developer team at the moment is killing it. They're doing great. It's a huge W, I would say.
Phase 2 is
It seems so weird, yeah, that they're talking to us.
It's a dungeon that's massive, full of flavor, and still abandoned in retail, leaving the gnomes as homeless refugees for almost 2 decades. Just like...
Honestly, I think No More Again Raid at level 40, I believe that's what they're making, is gonna be sick. Massive gnome raid. That's gonna be tight.
Black Fathom Deeps.
I'm excited for that one.
It's a large dungeon that can essentially be broken into different wings and be filled with bosses, events, and quests that just feel natural. And just how Phase 1 had a massive PvP event zone, Phase 2 will have one as well. Well, it should.
The PvP event in Asheville kind of flopped a little bit, but they are working on fixing it though, to be fair.
So long as the player base doesn't lose their collective minds and tear Ashen Vale down so hard that Blizzard cancels their plans. Warlords of Draenor.
It is fixed, yeah.
And whilst BFD is in Ashen Vale, so is Warsong Gulch. So you'd think that Phase 2's PvP zone event should be in the Arathi Highlands to tie it into Arathi Basin. But you'd be wrong, because Phase 2's PvP event zone is in Stranglethorn Vale. Honestly, it would be funnier if they kept PvP zone events in the zone of the dungeon, but how could they turn an alliance leveling zone into a PvP event zone?
It just makes sense to make it STV. It is literally like the hub of like where people get like went to PvP, or I guess where like max level undead rogues were to like went to camp low level alliance players, right? It's just an iconic place.
All dwarves and gnomes just being exiled to Elwyn Forest? No, that won't happen. But Stranglethorn Vale itself makes perfect sense. A highly contested PvP zone, and one that should have had a battleground from the get-go. We can likely expect a new reputation, a new quartermaster for some PvP loot down there, but we'll find out more in the coming weeks. Now, Phase 3 is where it gets spicy, but also still makes perfect sense since we have Scarlet Monastery, which comes with the level cap of 50, but it's also just north of a very conflicted and iconic battleground.
I hope that they take the old... You guys have probably seen the data mined version of Scarlet Monastery, where you can go through all the wings. I kind of hope they go in a direction like that, where you gotta work your way through like Graveyard and up into Library, then into Armory, and then eventually Cathedral, and maybe they change a little bit of stuff, right? I think that'd be cool, so like you work your way through the whole thing. SM Raid, I think it'd be sick. I think I'm addicted to SoD, so am I.
And thus Alterac Valley, with Scarlet Monastery being one of the most iconic dungeons because of Sally White, I mean because of Badass Crusaders, and Alterac Valley being one of the most recognizable battlegrounds in World of Warcraft. It's a perfect combination to throw out for Phase 3. Regardless, between the level cap of 50 and Scarlet Monastery being turned into a massive level up raid with new bosses, remastered bosses, new events, quests, and perhaps even a brand new reputation, Phase 3 is looking to be incredibly exciting. The PvP is just icing on that beautiful, delicious cake. And then that brings us to Phase 4 and the first
that is level 6. This is where like I'm a little bit conflicted with like what they're gonna do, right? Because we're gonna have the normal raids, but Are we gonna get new raids? Are they gonna go in the Season of Mastery route where like they change Molten Core and like are they gonna implement those? Like it'll be interesting to see what they're gonna do to the end game, right? But yeah, funny how everybody started as no change antis. I think starting off with Classic WoW being no changes was the way, because that is what people wanted. But then people played, the no changes thing, and then, wanted something new. And that's how it led into like the Classic Plus thing, right? You're addicted to WoW Classic in general, it doesn't count. No, I'm not addicted. You're addicted. Thank you, Sarsling, for the 3 months.
New dungeon in Classic, Karazhan Crypts, a dungeon that was designed back in 2002 or 2003 and then abandoned because they ran out of time, before becoming a raid known as Karazhan and the Burning Crusade. We know nothing about Karazhan Crypts, and people will be making pure conjecture until it comes out, but I expect us to perhaps see original quest lines and ideas make it back into the game. It could be
I like when they actually remade Kara into like I don't know which expansion they did that in, but that new Karazhan they made was actually really cool. I don't think they should take that one. If they do the thing, they should go with the Crypts, because I think that's something completely new and different. But that one was pretty dope. Oh, that was in Legion. Okay, yeah. All raids are sleeper. I think people would get bored if it was just the normal raids, right? So that's why like the Karazhan Crypts could be really dope.
Start of an alternate timeline with ideas from vanilla making a frontline return. We will likely get a new reputation to grind, new quests, new items, and perhaps even instead of being a 10-man level up raid, we're looking at the first new 20-man or 40-man raid in Classic. But
what do you guys think? Should they keep doing 40-man raids, or should we like go with like 25 or 20? I think 40-man raids are really, really, really dope. They're really sick, but they're super hard to set up, man. It is really difficult. But it is also a very notorious thing with the 40-man raids in Classic WoW, right? 40 is too hard to get. It's very difficult to get a group for that, right? And make it a thing. Make them scale. That could potentially be a thing. I don't really know how they would do that, obviously, but that could be a thing. Yeah, 40-man raids can be very much misery. My personal standpoint on it, I think like 25-man raids or like 20 or 25-man raids is a very good in between. Like it still feels epic. You still bring like a lot of players into the raid, but it's not like a big of a hassle as 40-man raids are. Because if you've ever made 40-man raids, they're very difficult to really set up. But I don't know. I'm just interested to see if they're gonna continue with the route of making a 40-man, or if they're gonna do it like as a lower thing, right? And it's fun hearing your opinions on it too. Imagine making a 40-man raid every 3 days. Oh, they wouldn't make it on a 3-day lockout then, right? For sure. But yeah, it is what it is.
PvE without PvP just isn't World of Warcraft, and thus the new PvP zone event for
40 is the best because they're hard to set up. Have you ever set it up yourself, Heiska? Setting up 40-man raids is a pain in the butt. But with that being said, though, 40-man raids can also be really epic, and they can feel really fun because you feel like you're in there with a whole army of raiders, right? It's cool, but it's a pain in the butt to set up.
Phase 4 is also likely to be new content. Since Karazhan Crypts an abandoned and forgotten concept and ideas being brought back to life, so will, in my opinion, Azshara Crater complete a new battleground dreamed back to life for Classic, as well as turning Azshara into a massive level 60 zone-wide PvP event zone. New reputations, quest lines, and much more are going to be given to us, and our dream is the limit, or in this case, the amount of risk Blizzard is willing to take. And thus, I conclude what I call the Season of Discovery introduction phases, which are amazing and incredible. Whilst we don't know exactly what we'll be getting, it's only the beginning of Season of Discovery, because Blizzard has already said we're getting more content at level 60. And thus, let me introduce you all to the Season of Discovery endgame phases, which is phase 5 to 8. Now, you might think that 8 phases is a lot, but Classic, when it came out in 2019, had 6 phases, and that was re-releasing the original 6 raids. Now, this is what we call the educated guessing phase, where we have ideas and we know what they're going to do nominally, but despite knowing we're getting content, new and old, changes and more, we don't know what that is. So this is more of a wish list for content. So phase 5 is of course none other than Molten Core and the top 5 most iconic raids in World of Warcraft after Black Temple, Ulduar, ICC, and Siege of Orgrimmar. Don't crucify me for that top 5 in the comments. Whilst Molten Core might not be the most iconic raid, Thunder Fury, Blessed Blade of the Windseeker is the single most iconic in-game weapon from World of Warcraft, if you don't count Frostmourne or the Warglaives. We're looking at a remastered Molten Core, new bosses, mobs, quests, items, and perhaps even legendaries and reputations.
Should they remaster them? I mean, I don't know, maybe. I'm not sure. Like, how would you remaster Molten Core? It's kind of hard to do in that way because like they've already did that with Season of Mastery. I don't think personally, if they did that, it needs to be something completely new, right? Like maybe there's like another place within the Blackrock Mountain you can enter or something like that. Maybe that'll be the way of doing it. Overhaul it, perhaps. I mean, that's sort of what they did with Season of Mastery. They overhauled the raid and they made the bosses have more mechanics, but staying within the classic theme, right? But I mean, maybe there could be other stuff. There could perhaps be like another place within Blackrock Mountain. Maybe the big door behind Baelgar. You know, where you go into BRD to the left. There's like a big door in there. There could be something in there. There could be multiple things, right? No, yeah, that's what I mean. The Season of Mastery raids were boring. I didn't like them. I didn't think it was fun to just make Molten Core harder. Like, if they go down the direction of remastering them, it needs to be something new. Like a new bosses, new stuff. Don't make the current bosses more difficult. I don't think that's the point. There needs to be new stuff, right? If that's the case. Molten Core 2, the dwarves dug even deeper. There's gonna be like a Balrog. Maybe.
Legendary that's already
It's interesting though, like, because this is completely new territory, and it's something that we haven't really done in Classic before, right? New models would change that for you? New models would change that for you? What do you mean? You mean, what? I don't understand.
the game, but only one singular person got, is the necklace back from vanilla, which got removed.
Yeah, this got removed like super early. I think one person had this, but it's the only person that really got it's the only necklace that can actually be shown in game. A remake? Well, I mean, with a remake, what I mean is like make new bosses. Like there would have to be new bosses, and that's what I mean. Like maybe make like a new raid within Blackrock Mountain, right? Something like that. That's what I would think. Bosses, you said new mechanics alone didn't feel enough. No, as I said, it didn't feel fun. It's not that it didn't feel like it was enough. It just didn't feel fun to do Molten Core, but harder, right? That wasn't enjoyable for me personally. I think it'd be interesting to see like a new style raid. That's why I got really excited about Karasan Crypts, right? Because it takes a familiar area within, you know, vanilla WoW, and it explores a new raid within the place that we know, right? So it would be like a whole new area basically.
Because it wasn't meant to be in the game. Now, that necklace might not come back, but they already have legendaries they designed back then, which they could reincorporate into Season of Discovery. I'm not sure exactly how much they'll change Molten Core and with it Onyxia, but there will be changes. Yeah. As for PvP, Blackrock Mountain is the single most cancerous PvP zone in the game.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. Weren't some of the bosses completely new? No, they added in Season of Mastery. What they did to the raids was they added more mechanics. They didn't make new bosses per se. I mean, it was new bosses technically because it was new mechanics, but it was the same bosses with more mechanics. So Gehenna's had, instead of having 2 ads, he had 4 ads, right? And there was a few extra mechanics as well. Magmador had some Corehound ads you had to deal with, and they would explode and stuff like that, I believe. Baron Geddon had, he left behind like a little fissure whenever you exploded with the bomb. Onyxia had 2 ads flying in whenever you were fighting her. You had to deal with those ads while you were fighting Onyxia. Stuff like that. I think AQ40 had some mechanics you could choose to turn off or on, like a hard mode and such. That's what they did to Season of Mastery, basically.
Played on a PvP server, then you'll be having Vietnam flashbacks. So we know that Molten Core and Onyxia are coming, but what about new content? Allow me to introduce the new and improved Dire Maul or Blackrock Depths. These 2 dungeons are massive, so massive in fact that in Cataclysm they got cut down and reshaped into multiple separate wings, and in BRD's case they just scrapped well over half of it. Either of these 2 dungeons make most sense as being a new 20-man raid or 10-man raid, and logically it makes sense because Blizzard stated that they wanted new players to be able to catch up easily phase to phase, so introducing more level 60 level up raids makes gearing a lot easier and allows transitioning into raids more easily. Albeit I'm not sure if they'll focus all the effort into making the already existing raids better and more fun to interact with, and keeping the phases between 4 and 12 weeks long so we get a lot of hyper-focused content and then new phases before we get bored. Or maybe
I think some small 10-man raids like we have with BFD are good for catch-up raids. They're not like the main dish, they're not like the main meal, but they're good to have as a catch-up thing. Okay, you're fresh level 60, you can't really go into the big dig raid yet. There's like a little raid. That's why CG was a thing and stuff like that. Like CG is a perfect catch-up raid. AQ20 as well, right?
Phases 5 to 8 will be 6 months long each with a storm of content.
It's not really a raid. Yeah, they could make it a 20-man, like 20-man catch-up raid, stuff like that. Like CG was, AQ20 was. Because 10-man, yeah, it doesn't really feel like a raid. I do agree with that.
Intent. Nonetheless, Phase 6 is
It's
Blackwing Lair and Zul'Gurub. Two fun and interesting raids which will definitely get more quests, perhaps reputations, new mechanics, changes, and loot. The dungeons most likely to get changed with this phase are Temple of Atal Hakar for ZG and Blackrock Spire for Blackwing Lair, correlating nicely with each other. Also, Blackrock Mountain being a horrible war zone probably continues into Phase 6, maybe Stranglethorn Vale as well at this point. But then again, perhaps this is an overload of content and I'm overestimating Blizzard's zeal, desire, and gold when it comes to classic Season of Discovery. There is a lot that they could do here, so much in fact that this could easily be a 6-month content stretch between the 10-mans, 20-mans, and 40-mans. Let's move on though to Phase 7, which is where I think we're going to see the most new content in the game. Scarab Lord is a very coveted title, and the Black Kiraji battle tank is one of the rarest mounts in the entire game. The opening of An Kiraj and the Scepter of the Shifting Sand questline is long, awesome, and genuinely a wild experience.
It's really sick, yeah.
Or he said.
So imagine the things they could do here, the things they could add. Imagine a massive zone-wide PvP event in Silphus where the Horde and Alliance battle it out for new PvP reputations and items. AQ40 and AQ20 are incredible raids full of awesome bosses, lore, mechanics, and loot, and I can't wait to see what Blizzard does here. Now
I just don't really like the theme of the bugs, okay? And maybe that's a bad take for me, but I just don't like the bug theme, okay? That's just my opinion on it, though.
Theory crafting if we don't think about new content, and with that, allow me to introduce Uldaman, the new 10-man dungeon and another location to gear with level 60 gear so you can delve into the raids faster.
I like troll stuff, like, you know, like stuff like that, and like open world kind of feel with dungeons and such. I like that, right? But yeah, I think I would tend to agree it is better than another dragon raid, because dragon raids are like, oh, a big dragon again, you know. I get that, so it's different than that at least. What about Torrent themed? Maybe. Maybe.
Last but not least, Phase 8 and the dreaded Naxxramas, the so-called Guild Killer in Vanilla and definitely Guild Killer in Classic as everything devolved into GDKPs and triggered hyperinflation. Naxxramas will likely get more loot, new quests, new bosses, new mechanics, and more. That's to be expected. But what else will change in Phase 8? Well, let me introduce you all to the new 20-man or 10-man raid Stratholme, one of the most iconic places in all of Warcraft in the beginning of the fall for our beloved Prince Arthas. Now, this is me wishing, but it could make sense as once Eastern Plague lands into a massive PvP zone event, which is already supported by the towers situated across the zone, it would make a lot of sense to have more than just Naxxramas for the entirety of Phase 8. And
I think I like the idea of like revamping dungeons like they did with BFD and such, but I would also like to see new stuff, right? Like a new Furball grade, like in Ashara with the big wall, or Grim Batol, or something like that, right? Something new as well. I think that'd be really cool too.
Size of Stratholme already correlates to being a miniature raid anyways. Even if they only include a fraction of what I've spoken of, and even if they go absolutely a completely different path, the amount of content that Blizzard seems to be planning to add to Classic Plus Season of Discovery is staggering. And whilst all of this might not be in Season of Discovery, it will definitely be in Classic Plus. So whether Season of Discovery is Classic Plus or leads into Classic Plus, expect an obscene amount of content just from the end game phases. Now, this last section is going to be the shortest, but allow me to show you my terrible but somewhat decent guess to the final stretch. Welcome to Season of Discovery, Classic Plus phases. This section right here isn't going to have me guess as to how, why, or even what any of this will look like. This is just my guess of the content that's coming once they finish with existing.
Oh, he says pause if you need to. So this is after Naxxramas or what? Dude, the scaling would be really weird though, man, because like Nax gear is already crazy as hell. But this is obviously hypercopium, but Phase 9 would be Mount Hyjal, new dungeon, new raid Hyjal, new dungeon, Illidan's Prison. Okay, I think they've done something similar to this in Kata, I believe. Something like that, I don't know, but that's kind of cool. New PvP is Kalador, Battle for Hyjal. This would be pretty sick. New raid Uldum in Phase 10, and the new dungeon would be Uldum Entryway. So we would like work our way through Tanaris, southern part of Tanaris into Uldum, and then there would be a PvP world event in Tanaris, obviously. Phase 11 Grim Batol. This one I think could be very cool, very amazing. And a Dragonmaw Hold dungeon, and then there would be a PvP zone in Wetlands, because that's what leads into Grim Batol, right? Makes sense, I suppose. Phase 12 Gilneas, and there would be a Gate Breach dungeon, and the PvP zone would be at the Siege of Gilneas. This is obviously hypercopium, but honestly, if Season of Discovery is popular, if people enjoy it, if it's like a game that people like, we could end up in a situation somewhat similar to old school RuneScape, where it becomes like a genuine like new content, stuff happening all the time and everything like that, right? That could be interesting. I'm definitely excited about it though. Like, I'm so far, with the level cap being level 25 in the current content, I am very positively surprised at what they did with Season of Discovery, man. It's been pretty sick so far, I would say. If they can keep this up, that'd be amazing. It's more like Classic Plus content over SoD. Yeah, it's like an actual Classic Plus phase, right?
Content. No matter how reasonable a guess, everything is in the air based on player feedback and reactions through all the phases. If you want to see more from me, watch this video right here. And subscribe and like the video if you're depressed. If you're not depressed, like and subscribe anyways.
Alright, I guess I'm gonna have to like and subscribe, guys. Alright, I'm already subscribed, so I'll just like the video. Good video, though. Very, very, very good video from Ebenhardt there. Actually, super nicely structured. He made some really, really good points about it. I enjoyed it a lot. SoD is turning into absolutely epic. A lot of things to fix, but seems like the most will be turned up before we hit 60, which is perfect. Yeah, I agree fully with this comment for sure, man. What is it about AV being 40 is a great idea. Give us old AV with new rewards. Yeah? I came back to WoW unaware of SoD, but I reached up to play Classic by happenstance on day 1 on SoD as an AOG Ashes. I don't know what this is. Long-time top 100 guild leader as a top type PvP. This is the first time I actually enjoyed WoW since OG TBC. This is amazing, love it. They actually nailed it something for once. I really agree, man. I know a lot of classic Andes like it, and a lot of other classic Andes hate it, but it seems like it also caters towards non-classic people, which I think is super duper important as well.